The Last of the Mohicans is an epic historical drama film that takes place in 1757 during the French and the Indian War. It was written and directed by Michael Mann and was based on James Fenimore Cooper's 1826 novel The Last of the Mohicans, a narrative of 1757. The film was released on September 25, 1992 in the United States. I'm going to name the main cast of the film. Daniel Day-Lewis as Hawkeye, Nathaniel Poe, who is the lead actor and the adoptive son of Chingagu. Madeleine Stowe as Cora Monroe, who is the lead actress, lover of Nathaniel and daughter of Colonel of the British Army. Russell Means as Chingagu, who plays the Last of the Mohicans. Eric Swiwick as Yunkas, son of Chingagu. Jodie May as Alice Munro, the other daughter of the Colonel Munro and lover of Yunkas. Stephen Waddington as Mag, Duncan Hayward. He pretended to be Cora's lover. Study as Mawa, the antagonist and the Huron Indian chief. Maurice Roofs as Cole, Colonel Edmund Munro. A brief summary. The story happens in the 18th century during the French and Indian War, a battle between the colonies of British America and New France, in the Adirondack Mountains, in New York, United States. In the middle of the war, a dying tribe called the Mohicans, in which only 2 are left, as well as 1 adopted white man, refused to enter the militia of Britain in 1757 because they only wanted freedom. On their way to Kentucky, they stopped Indians attacking a small regiment of British, including the 2 daughters of the British colonel, on their way to a fort. The 3 men lead the survivors to the fort while 2 love stories take place, but the French and Indian War continues.
The historical context of the plot was the French and Indian War in 1757, which was the American phase of the 9 Years' Worldwide War, which was fought between France and Great Britain. The more complex European phrase, which was the actual cause of this war, was the 7 Years' War in between 1756 and 1763. This war determined control of the vast colonial territory of North America by the Britain. In the United Kingdom, it is said that French and Indian War was from fighting the Indian coalition with the French army, but not all the Indians were attached to the French side. Among the Indians, there were also tribes that were on British side rather than in French side. In consequence, the position of the British as a colonial powerhouse was confirmed with the victory of the Great Britain. Historically, in order to solve the fiscal deficit due to the colonial war in England and France, the economic regulation and taxation on British colonies strengthened and triggered the anger of the colonists, which activated the independence movement in the 1770s, which finally reached and led to the outbreak of the American Independence War of 1775. Also in France, the increase of taxation because of spending budgets brought to the financial burden of the Bourbon monarchy, and in order to solve this problem, they tried to strengthen taxation on aristocrats and priests, but this turned out to the contradiction of the ancient regime and became the outbreak of the French Revolution in 1789. In the film, the actual battle, the siege of the Fort William Henry, which was taken place in August 3rd to 9th in 1757, was reflected, although being quite arranged. The two daughters of Colonel Munro would head to the Henry Fort to join their father. The fort was located at the southern end of Lake George on the frontier between the British province of New York and the French province of Canada. It was garrisoned by a poorly supported force of British regulars and provincial military led by Colonel George Monro. After several days of bombardment, Monro surrendered to the French military, whose force included nearly 2,000 Indians from a large number of tribes. Now, the specific information about the characters. The film's frontier hero would be Hawkeye. He was adopted by the Mohican tribe as an orphanage child and educated with British sensibilities. This is why he speaks perfect English. As a cultural hybrid, Hawkeye provides a link between the Indians and the whites. He fell in love with Colonel Monroe's eldest daughter, Cotton. Cora Munro is the Colonel Munro's eldest daughter, a solemn girl with noble bearing. She always tries to protect her younger sister, which shows her brave personality. Although strongly being approached by Hayward, which is a young American colonist who has risen rank of major in the British Army, she could not help being attracted to Hawkeye. Uncas, Chingachgook's son, he is the youngest and one of the last members of the Mohicans. Uncas also functions as Hawkeye's adopted brother and learns about leadership from Hawkeye. Being attracted to Alice, Coran's younger sister, he would try to rescue her from the hands of Magua, although his attempt fails and he turned out to die. This makes his father Chingachgook the last member of the Mohicans. Alice Munro, she is Colonel Munro's younger daughter, a younger sister of Cora. She fell in love with Uncas, and when he died trying to save her, she decides to kill herself as well. Chingachgook is Uncas' father and an adopted daughter of Hawkeye. He would be the last member of the Mohican tribe. Having his son killed, he revenges Magua by killing him. Magua is a member of the tribe of Huron, and because a British Colonel Munro enforced his humiliating punishment, Magua possesses a burning desire for retaliation against him. He pretends as the Mohicans to gain trust of the British military and soon betray them and attempts to attack the military. Succeeded in killing Colonel Munro, he even attempted to kill his two daughters, though in the end it didn't succeed, because Alice turned out to kill herself and Cora has survived with Hawkeye. And lastly, Major Duncan Hayward. He was a young American colonist from the South who has risen to the rank of major in the British Army. He was in love with Coran and proposes marriage to her, though in spite of that, Cora fell in love with Hawkeye. He struggled in admitting that, although in the end he will be killed instead of Cora and protects her.
I consider that one of the most important scenes on the film is when the two girls and Duncan Hayward are captured by Magua. Magua was about to accomplish his revenge upon the family Monroe after the fall of Fort William Henry and the ambush against the surrendered Britain army. The Hurons attacked them because Magua blamed the Colonel Monroe of the murder of their children and the fact that his wife married to another man. So he needed to kill him and to eat his heart. He presents the British colonel's captured daughters and Duncan Hayward to his chief, in hopes of gaining recognition as a war leader and for revenge, only to again be interrupted by Hawkeye, who has come to plead for the lives of the prisoners, with Chingachgook and Uncas nearby. The chief of the tribe decides that Hayward is going to be returned to the British with Alice given to Magua to marry him, but Cora sacrifices by fire to settle the debt. Hawkeye asks Hayward, translating between Hawkeye and the Elder, to take his life in Cora's stead. In a final gesture of affection and redemption, Hayward arranges to be executed in her
The
place.
Last of the Mohicans has a lot of historical mistakes. The most important is that the Mohicans is still alive and they live in Wisconsin. So the father of Hawkeye was not the last of the Mohicans. And also the author of the book confused this trip with other one, which is called Mohigan. Cora, Alice, Hawkeye never exist, but her father Monroe yes, and he did not die in a battle. He died 3 months after that battle. Also, the Huron, which is the tribe of the enemy of the movie, were not a dangerous and evil tribe. In fact, they were a very small group and really pacific compared with the representation of the movie. The Indian helped the British, and this fact is in the movie. Nevertheless, the Indian relationship with France was not too good as the movie reflects, and it was a very complicated relationship. The assault of the fort was exaggerated in the movie and in the novel because it was not as bloody as in real life. And also the French lose that battle. So in conclusion, The Last of the Mohicans is a great example of that period. Nevertheless, it has a lot of historical mistakes. In conclusion, The Last of the Mohican is a really enjoyable movie, and also it's really interesting to study the 7 Years' War. Nevertheless, you have to take in account that it has some mistakes referent to historical context. Nevertheless, that did not bother the best part of the movie, that is the soundtrack and also the love story between Hawkeye and Cora.